Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, it's all about treasures and layers. Because we're going to be trying to gather different sheeps of different colors and matching them to try to gather different treasures to score points. Today we're going to be looking at Dragon's Hoard. This is a tactical card game for 2 to 4 players by Renegade Game Studios. Now we're going to be doing a rule school, so I'm going to teach you how to set up and play the game rule for rule so that you don't have to read the rule book, and I've placed all the timestamps in the description below so you can jump to any section you'd like, but let's get started. Dragon's Hoard is a tactical card game for 2 to 4 players where you're trying to score treasure cards throughout the game. And you're trying to maximize your points by putting treasures of the same color in the same layer to gain bonus points. You'll be drawing cards of interesting sheeps that give you currency in order to spend. And you'll be discarding the right amount of colored sheeps in order to play down those treasure cards. And you'll be playing different action cards, like drawing 2 cards, skipping other players, forcing other players to discard half their cards, using wild sheep as any sheep when getting treasures, using the dragon to stop other people's actions, using the thief to steal 2 cards, using the unicorn to protect yourself from other people's action cards, and using the wizard to be unstoppable even against the dragon. Dragon's Hoard is all about hand management, gathering the right cards to be able to score the right treasures at the right time. To set up, first find the 5 reference cards, give 1 to each player, let them select the one they like, and the ones that aren't used will go back in the box. Next, find the start card and separate that from the deck. Keep it off to the side for now, as we'll use that when we start the game. Next, take the entire deck and shuffle it together face down. Face down is always whenever you can see a sheep of any color like this, but the sheeps are different colors, but as long as you're looking at a sheep like that, you know it's face down. Next, deal 4 cards to each player, face down. Those players can obviously look at these cards, but they should not show them to any other player. Next, deal 4 cards face down to the middle of the table, next to the draw deck. This is known as the field. Next, take that start card that you separated out earlier and give it to the player to the left of the dealer, as they'll be the first player of the game. The object of the game is to score the most points by collecting different treasures throughout the game and also putting treasures in the same colored layer for additional bonus points. During the game, each player is going to draw cards, then possibly play up to 2 actions, then it will go to the next player. I'm going to be going over the rules for a 2-player game. At the end, I'll go over the different variants that are used when playing with 3 or 4 players. The first thing you do on your turn is draw cards. When you draw cards, you could draw them from the field, which will be replaced immediately, or from the top of the draw deck. When drawing cards, if you have 4 or more cards in your hand, you'll draw 2 cards. And this is true for your first turn of the game because you start with 4 cards in your hand. However, if you have less than 4 cards in your hand, you'll be drawing 1 additional card, so 3 cards total. So you'll be drawing 2 cards if you have 4 or more, or 3 cards if you have less than 4. But since we started the game with 4 cards, we'll be drawing 2. And so if we take one of these from the field to our hands, it immediately gets replaced. Make sure you do not flip this card, it stays face down. Also, now there's a new card that you can see here, but maybe I take this one. Let's see how these cards work. You've seen them face down. This one counts as 1 orange sheep. On the other side, when I'm looking at it where other people cannot see it, this is a treasure, and as you notice, this is an orange treasure. It's going to be worth 3 points if I can store this treasure, and what I need is 1 orange sheep and to play 2 other sheeps of any color. After drawing your cards, you can optionally perform up to 2 different actions. The first one is to play an action card. Now these cards look different from treasure cards. They don't cost anything to play, and they have a title and their action. I'll go over what these actions do later, but you can only play 1 action card per turn. The other optional action you can take is to play a treasure card or a layer card. You can never play both of these on the same turn. To play the treasure card face up in front of you, you need to pay for the sheep, as mentioned previously. Here I have 1 orange sheep, and then 2 of any color, and you will put these out into a discard pile off to the side of the game. Instead of playing the treasure card, you could play a layer card, and it does not cost you anything. You simply place it down in front of you. You can never have more than 1 layer of the same color. What layers do is give you bonuses at the end of the game, depending on how many treasures of that color you have. For instance, if this was the end of the game, I have 2 orange treasures, so this is going to give me 3 extra bonus points. Keep in mind you can play treasures of that color before or after the layer gets here, it does not matter. At the end of your turn, if you have more than 10 cards, you must discard down to 10 cards. Then it would be the next player's turn to your left. This continues until one player has 10 treasures down in front of them, not including any layers. You then make sure everybody has had an equal amount of turns by looking at who has the start card and making sure that the player to the right of the start card takes the last turn of the game. You then count up your scores by adding up all the numbers of all the treasures that are in front of you, and additionally adding the bonus points for the layers as talked about previously. Depending on whether you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 cards under a layer of that color, you'd get that many bonus points. Add all those points together, the one who has the most is the winner.
Let's talk about the actions. On the back of your reference card, it defines all of these. The Angry Mob card allows you to force all opponents to discard half their hand rounded down. Now we haven't talked about the dragon yet, we will in a few moments, but each player affected would need to discard a dragon to cancel this effect. When you play the knight, you skip the next player. When you play the shepherd, you draw 2 more cards. When you play the thief, you can steal any 2 cards from one player. When you play the wild sheep, it acts as a wild of any color when trying to get treasure. When you play the dragon, you play this anytime to stop an opponent from playing a card. However, you cannot play a dragon on another dragon, and you cannot play a dragon on a wild sheep card. The wizard is meant to stop the dragon. It's unstoppable. When you play this card with something else, even the dragon cannot stop it. And when you play the unicorn, you play it in front of you and it protects you from all action cards, including even the wizard for 1 round. When playing with 3 players, regardless of the amount of cards that you have in your hand, when you draw cards, you always draw 3 cards. You can also never play more than 3 layers throughout the entire game. And the game end is triggered as soon as any one player has scored their 9th treasure. When playing with 4 players, regardless of the amount of cards you have in your hand, when you draw cards, you always draw exactly 3 cards. At most, you can only play 2 layers throughout the game. And the end game is triggered when only one player has 8 treasures in front of them. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into Dragon's Hoard and get to the fun quicker than you normally would have if you needed to read the rules yourself. Now, if you have further questions, I've placed a link in the description in this video below me, and that's the best place to put them because not only will I get notified, but so will the publisher. This has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.